1. Alright, it's another beautiful day in the neighborhood. Today, what were we talking about? We were talking about various concepts of cannabis and silver. My usual talks. Some information I wanted to pass along. Let's look at today. Something I learned was really awesome about silver was the silver to sheep ratio. We all talk about silver to gold ratios. One thing that I've observed over years and years and years and years was the gold to cannabis ratio. Back in the 80s when gold and cannabis were the same price, I always said I was going to buy the same amount of gold as I bought cannabis, but I just taught myself how to grow cannabis instead, so I never bought the gold. Crazy shit, right? Anyhow, this week we saw some crazy swings in the prices of silver and gold, and there's a lot of stuff surrounding that and why that stuff happens and what's going on with global economy, real money, the state of our United States government going from a democracy to an authoritarian regime, and the destruction of the BRICS of the dollar, which is going to benefit BRICS, but the idiot in chief right now believes that having a weaker dollar is going to make a stronger economy somehow because we export more shit and can't afford to import shit. That kind of stuff is just beyond insane to me. That is, socialism is the control of the means of production, and that's what tariffs are, right? Blanket tariffs are unconstitutional from one guy dictating it. So when that idiot opens his mouth and says something or makes a move, it really tacos our economy up and down. But other things involved in that entire set of swings is that silver to sheep ratio is pretty neat. 4,000 years ago in Mesopotamia, the clay tablets record that you could get 2 nice productive sheep for an ounce of pure silver. And what was the fellow saying? There was this is it Rational Rancher or something like that? I saw talking about this morning, and he was from 5 days ago when before the collapse occurred again. But he was saying how so over time. So in Roman times, I think it was up to 6 sheep for a single ounce of silver, and then at the high the other day when he was making the movie, he was like, it's still you need 3 ounces or a third of a sheep to 1 ounce of silver, right? And so just by the sheep ratio, we can see that silver is way out of whack from historical times, and we went off of gold and silver standards here in the United States, 33 for gold and 64 really for silver. They say 72, but um, what was going on was where our ability to mine the stuff and produce it was not keeping up with the demands of consumption for primarily money, right? So silver and gold were considered real money, and all objects made of silver and gold back in the day were required to have purity marks by the government because they were the same thing as money, right? And so you would pay you would pay silver to get silver objects, right? And so you wanted to have purity standards and all of that, right? Historical gold to silver ratios back in ancient times, 4-to-1 silver to gold. 16-to-1 was fairly historical with the United States currency and the objects that came into United States currency. Things we have what became the United States currency was the Spanish piece of 8 or 8 reals, right? Yesterday I struck my very first 2-bit piece. We should pull it. I have it soaking in some acid because I was trying to do some a little bit of what do we call it? Patina or aging effect, right? But it was kind of ugly, so I'm trying to strip off some of the oxidation off of it, and so I've got it in the acid right behind me, and we'll pull that out in a minute and look at it. But so what's 2 bits is $0.25 to the United States in silver, right? We all have seen old westerns where your whiskey drink was 2 bits, right? And or someone would bet 2 bits or and so what is a bit? And most of us in America think of a bit as the thing in a horse's mouth, right? But a bit was a real or a real, or a piece of 8. It was one 1 bit of an eighth of silver, right? Or an eighth bit of silver. I don't know the exact etymology. I should check that and learn that one myself. So, but I know the 8 reals basically came up to the same thing as an Austrian thaler, right? Thaller, which is where we get the word dollar, right? From thaler. And the thalers go back into like the 1400s, I think. But there was the late 1700s strike, the Maria Theresa that you can still get today that was restruck the exact same coin for now going on 250 years or something, right? And so the amount of silver that was in the average of, I think they had like 70 of the Spanish pieces of 8 or Spanish dollars, silver dollars that had been circulating and being used as money in colonies and then the states after the Revolutionary War, right? And so there was also golden pesos, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and again a piece of gold. And those derived from escudos. 8 escudos would have been the golden, 8 reals would have been in silver, and then I had that for a while, pretty good. There's over time, and so like again, beginning of the United States, there were so many different gold and silver coins from around the world that were circulated as they came in to through various means of merchant ships or trade, right? And so finding how are we going to find our actual dollar value? They took, if I'm understood right, it's something like 70. The United States Treasury folks, the original Treasury, they took 70 of these dollars that were Spanish 8 reals, and they averaged the weight of that, and that's where they came up with the gram weight of the silver dollar that we all know as a Morgan, or so. But going back into it was in 1792, if I got it right, was the first year the U.S. Mint struck coins. And I think I have older coins than that now, but that was for the longest time. I had a 2 real from Mexico City that was struck the same year. Was my oldest coin for the longest time. Anyhow, so this is just establishing those units of real money, right? Okay, so 1964 when we went off the silver standard because we were not producing enough silver to maintain the increase of value of our economies, right? And that was across the globe. Post-war industrialization and increase of capital was just like the real money couldn't keep up the production of it in the world and its consumption and other goods and stuff. There just wasn't enough gold to maintain the gold standard, right? And so that would have caused a type of I don't know if we can call it inflation, but an increase in the value of the money beyond the gold would be worth more than the money itself, and that's why they ended up confiscating it all. And good morning, friends. Silly, Prozio, Dave, welcome. Down to one viewer. I had 15 a minute ago. Anyhow, so the when we went off of the silver and gold. So 1964, silver came off. Gold was confiscated prior. They say it was backing the dollar at that point. Silver, 1964, 6 silver quarters was minimum wage, right? And so if we look at the value of that, even before our massive explosion, a year ago, right now, silver was an ounce of 30, $36, right in that zone, right? And that's where minimum wage buying power from 1964 really should have been. But if we also look at that, the we can do all sorts of inflationary analysis. We can look at the buying power analysis. We can work at the labor per hour and purchasing power analysis of all this stuff. And just across time, fiat currency has been deflating or inflated to where you have less and less value to that, right? And so again, the concerns were that because of supply and demand, there was less silver or gold available. We weren't mining as much as we needed to create money. The value of the gold would have been worth more than the struck coin, and the struck coins would have been melted and used for other things, and you lose the money supply completely. So that's why they kind of were doing that. So we had 50 years or more so legally we went off gold standard in 72. 50 something years later here, we've had this production exceeding consumption of silver and gold in industry and real money asset, right? Gold has been a tier one asset. Silver has just been declared tier one asset again. And then so our up until 5 years ago, we were producing more than we were consuming, particularly of silver. Okay, so there were surpluses that had accumulated. And there's a whole nother factor we look at is the post 1980 spike that was done through manipulation and the cornering of a market by the two brothers, right? And then JP Morgan Chase bought up a short position of some millions of ounces of silver. And they've been riding this short out for the longest time. For whatever reason, I don't understand, because the price of silver has been going up. Their short is something like $8 an ounce is this massive short, and we're talking trillions and trillions of dollars of short loss if they don't buy the ounces and produce them as the short comes due. So that kind of can drive the price up. But also, so one of the things they've been driving the price back down artificially with every time it takes off of the run, they're pulling some of their both paper derivatives and real bullion. Okay, that's a whole nother factor involved with the whole silver market, and this massive drop we just experienced was a sell-off of paper silver, non-real silver, but paper futures. And so here in the United States, part of the retarded price of silver has been long-term paper dragon of 9 times more paper silver than actual physical silver being traded on any given day or month, right? And so that makes it look like there's a whole lot more silver than there actually is, and supply and demand that would lower the price if the supply actually was what the paper provides there to be, which is non-existent. That's just a promise of silver, right? And so every time shit starts to run, these big banks, especially Chase, would come in and dump both paper derivatives and real bullion to meet the demand and retard the price and keep it in check, so their short position doesn't grow into a greater debt, right? And as this debt grows, so literally, so as this price started taking off on both silver and gold, there's multiple factors. Again, global warfare, changing from petrodollars to BRICS or other global exchange units, right? All this shit's coming into play right now, having the leader of the free world becoming an authoritarian, non-trustworthy international player is got massive effect on this. Things like idiot taking, we're gonna just take by force, we're gonna rape other people's territories and stuff. All of that plays into the stability of the dollar. But the bigger thing is the supply and demand of actual silver and or gold tier one assets available. The 5 years of consumption greater than production, we've run out of reserves of silver. The paper derivatives are disappearing and burning up, and they can't dump anymore to halt it. But they had to do. There's a multiple factor. The Fed, the Trump's declaration of changing the Fed, which is totally illegal, but instead of having authoritarian control over the Fed, that made a massive difference. But the end of month massive paper dump by the banks is a cyclical thing that occurs every month, and then you had a massive panic attack, sell off all at the same time, right, and brought us back to where market was before the supply ran out in actual physical demand requirements for industry in December, right? So the price, so we got to look at some other crazy things that were going on here. The price of silver been going up, and even back in October, I want to say, the local refinery stopped buying silver for less than 5 grams per piece because the time energy requirement of the state to record every piece of scrap that comes into a shop for protection against theft, and it has to be cataloged and stored for 30 days. And so that energy requirement exceeded the profitability of taking in that silver. I think some of the smaller shops were still doing that, and then they dump it in bulk to the bigger regional refinery, right? But so that was one of the first things that started the price of scrap dropping. But the actual price of silver going up, and the spread from scrap to bullion. So that spread kept increasing, and so scrap started getting cheaper or less desirable around here, and more and more of it becoming available, and more people wanting to sell it because the price going up and bringing out their silverware, their inherited stuff that they're never going to use. All that started getting dumped into the shops and refineries, and so they got to take out a loan to buy the stuff. And when things are going normal and everything's kind of just run smoothly, the shops will have what they buy sold before the end of closing of the day, locked into today's rates and sold, and they ship it off. And generally, when everything's normal, they just get an electronic transfer of funds back for the silver as it's mailed, and it's all in real time, right? But as these volumes increase, the buyer has to borrow money to purchase from the retail seller, right? The scrap seller or the collector, and this goes from small scale, one person with one piece of silver, to large scale investors, banks, etc., whoever has massive amounts of silver piled up and wants to now reap a profit. Monster boxes of thousands of ounces at once, whatever it is. The silver gets processed back through the refineries as the clearinghouse. The clearinghouse needs to have enough funds to buy from the stores. At some point, the clearinghouse runs out of funds. They need to start borrowing and or delaying payment. The payments were at a couple of weeks in December, and local shops around here kind of stopped buying any scrap in December. And by mid-January, they were only buying London Bullion Manufacturer Exchange a certified bullion, because that stuff doesn't need to get reprocessed. But generic rounds, all that stuff, if it has anything less than perfect status when they buy it, people are so anal retentive they don't want to buy things for less than, so they get sent back to the mint for them to reassess at the clearinghouse whether it goes back out as a call at a lower price, or if it gets refined and reminted as a primary product again. And so all of that stuff backed up to where, for silver, it got to where it was getting to be 3 to 5 months before you get a check from your shop, from the refiner to the shop, right? And that's why they had to stop buying at the shops. And the entire gold even was getting to where it was multiple weeks to a month plus before you get paid out on the gold. And so that was literally about to collapse the entire, or implode the entire banking system that was loaning money against the metal, and the metal kept going up in value, but there was just running out of fiat to back the cycle, right? And it was literally just about to complete. So all that, again, the end of year dump, the Fed rate thing, I haven't exactly examined it, but they're saying that's a huge factor in what changed, which seems backwards to me because, I mean, the stock market collapsed at the same time, and usually gold goes up when the stocks collapse, right? And so, anyhow, we had this correction. It's going to go back up on Monday somewhat. It already started going back up after it hit bottom about 2 hours before close of market on Friday. People started buying again, and it hit 78, I think, on silver, and it's back up to like 85, 86. So there, Alton's talking about the change the petrodollar. The invading Venezuela. Think about that. The crazy shit, though. So how many billions of dollars did the oil we stole from Venezuela bring in, and that all is in a private corrupt account in Kuwait or Qatar with Donald Trump's name on it and nobody else's. Right? That money hasn't been audited. The same psycho fuck is now suing our own Treasury Department for $10 billion, and he's in control of the Treasury Department, so he's probably going to get $5 billion that he's going to steal from the United States citizens. And it's fucking insane how corrupt and like the manipulation and the cash out that these guys are doing, just raping our nation. It's anyhow. So the one way that I teaching people to get around any of this shit is when my daughter says, "Is this a good time to buy silver?" Every day is a great day to buy some silver, especially if you can buy it below the spot price. But if you just put a little bit by every single day, one of the books that I want really, I'm going to get around to read as a just as an audio book here on is The Richest Man in Babylon. Where did I put that? I think it's right. I thought it was right here. I don't know where it went. I thought it was sitting right here. But it talks about just putting aside 10% of your income without, and if you can start just buying an ounce of silver every month, the potentials to go up are incredible. We're still, I see things settling out closer to at this time next year. We're gonna have a $6,000 gold and 300 on silver. If gold stays at 55, silver should jump up to 250, right? But again, this whole scenario I just described with JP Morgan Chase and the global banking economies, it can't actually go there, or everything will collapse, right? It can ease. It can't go fast. We can ease to there, and prices on products and stuff is going to go up a little bit. But there's so much more consumption now. Electric batteries and phones and cars, all the electrical, they're finding that mixing the lithium and silver together makes a way more efficient battery, but it takes way more silver than they've been using, and so many things like that. I've been trying to get people to come in on board with doing a what was I calling it? Locking in a price. Like, I didn't have silver available. I had people asking me to buy some, and I didn't have any processed. And so I was like, okay, well, tell you what, give me 10% today of what it is you intend on purchasing, right? And you can lock in a price, and I will process the silver. And if the price goes up, you're locked in on it. And if it goes down, you pay the lower price when you get delivery. And I got no takers on that one in December, right? Some people could have made some fucking bank. Unfortunately, I was not able to sell much of my silver that I was trying. I got some sold on eBay. I didn't buy anything at a high rate, which is nice. But I also failed to sell my gold because the dude was out of money. Every day I went in there, and then I added more. And he said I didn't pass, but I think the lady put the wrong gram weight into the machine when she went to scan it because I don't know how, like I ran through the process and did a couple of extra processes, and every time I've ever run these processes, the gold is pure at that point and it always scans clean. And I went to go to the other shop that has the parts per million scanner. They'll tell me exactly what's in there, and their machine is busted. So I got it back in the acid again, and but boy, I could I had almost an ounce ready to sell and drop in the next day. Just it would have been a really nice flip over and made 25%. C'est la vie. I still have my gold and my silver, right? So I still have my still have all of my processing equipment. I've been managing to sell some jewelry and bullion on the eBay. Let's take a look here. I have some gold processing right here. Don't breathe that steam. So that'll cool down and crystallize. I had it crystallized once, and I added more hydrochloric acid to it, rehydrate it, and I'm boiling that down again. And just trying to see if I can drop out any solids or whatever. I'm going to really rehydrate it, and I'm going to shave in the slightest little amount of copper powder and see if I can precipitate it. If I have the platinum group in there, they're really hard to the precipitants that bring the gold out of solution will also bring some of the platinum sometimes, or I don't know, maybe I left some iron in there from using copperas. So I'll run two more rounds out of that, and we'll see how clean we can get it. So I still have not been stressing on trying to get the money together to pay the bill on the credit card. So I haven't opened up the freeze dryer yet. I did spend some money cleaning the glass on my tool this morning. My nail. I'm just gonna go right ahead. Yeah. So that's serendipity. One of the plants for my breeding projects that just volunteered, grew in native soil, and the smell that comes off of this hash is so fucking divine. Kind of like a subtle cat piss skunk, sweet. You don't really taste it when you're burning, but the quaff that comes up after and fills the house with, oh my God. So I've only done one hash run this year so far. I've been stressing on this whole. I had a great plan in early December to take out some credit and buy a bunch of scrap. And I still haven't gotten it all processed because I took on a project for someone else to process gold, and I ran out of acid, and then acid was all back ordered, and yeah, it's amazing. But the whole thing is just remaining zen about it. Like, okay, I missed last week's high, but I got a feeling it's gonna fucking go up again, right? That was nice. I kind of want another hit, but I kind of want to smoke some flower too. So let's smoke a little flower while we're at it. Oh, cool. Silver and gold, silver and gold. Boy, this fella that I've been processing gold for, that he shows up to where I met him at the thrift shops, and the other day when prices were at their highest Smells like fermenting rotten meat. Um, had 25 grams of maple leaves, 1 gram maple leaves, and gold, and like I had my 26-gram piece of gold, and it was kind of neat to compare the two and show it to the girl behind the jewelry shop. But he also had like 20 Morgans that were all I want to say MS65s that are like, I want to buy them, and happened. I lost the connection. We're back. All right. Let me smoke this. We'll go look at the freshly produced bouillon I made this week. Unfortunately, I got to order a new dye. I had dye cracks occur, and that's part of the whole thing. Oh yeah, I was saying I made my first 2-bit piece today. That was fun. Yeah, that flour wasn't anywhere near as good as that hash was. I mean, it got me higher, but let's look over here. There's some items that I've managed to sell this week here. This watch is sold. It's got a bid on it. This ring. It's a 1906 gold-plated penny with a 14-karat gold fill. And this was given to me to refine. I'm like, no, that's worth way more as jewelry. So someone's bid $350 on that. This I put up at high $135 for the price on that. It's probably worth twice that. This is a sterling silver watch band. Pretty sweet. My first 1 ounce hammered old school, old world hammered coin. It's sold for, there's a $100 bid on it right now. These sold, no, so it's sold actually at 100. Never mind, that one's closed. These are closed. These are 1/4 ounce hammered. These are sold 1/2 ounce. So these are definitely going, they were bidding above the price of silver when it was at its high, except for this one. Here we have 2 ounce Troy silver. Let's see. Interesting lighting there. 2026. This one's really bitching. This is like crazy crystallization surface that I was getting on a lot. I don't know what's going on exactly. I've never seen this before, but I'm trying to get the buttons off of the glass as it cools in the borax glass, and it's gassing off of these little bubbles and stuff. But the other thing is, I don't know if the light's going to do it. This is full on. There, you can see it. Crystal. You can see the crystal surfaces there, right? Okay. We're going to see some really neat crystal silver here in a second. So this is nice, shiny. That's what you usually think of the surface of silver, right? 31.5 grams. It's really hard to stamp an unsmooth surface. This is all curved, you can see. But I didn't want to stamp it at all. This was set on my knee as I pounded those in, so to prevent any damage to that crystal surface. All right. So let's see, what else do we got over here? I don't know if this crystallization. So I did a bunch more 1/4 ounce, and these are 1 ounce chunkies, hand poured. Some of these, like one of them is only 31 grams, so they have either 1 troy ounce or what is this? Can't even see it. Handmade, so it should be this way. That's there it is. 31 gram AG handmade.
All right, yeah. What's really neat on some of these hand pours, I didn't want to stamp them because there's the pretty design from the ripples it shows. Um, but you can see on this one here, the ripples stay even sometimes when it's pressed, right? You can see there where it says Mason B Mint, there's still ripples, right? But the die cracked right here on the circular part. Here's these ones here I'm super proud of. These have crystal surfaces, but we're not seeing what's going on. Um, so we have serial numbers and actual weight stamps as well. So it's the 250 gram class, and then like I'll have actual 251.8 grams handmade. Is the bird privy on there? This should have the bird privy. Yep. Okay, so I'm putting the bird privy on for 26. But there's also, so the way the serial number works, 026, that's the year. 250 is the weight class. So I'm going for quarter kilo, and this is that number 2, right? All right, so let's see if we can get this to show. I don't know if we can see these here. There's some crazy crystallization going on here. When the light is just right, though, all the crystal, you can see crystal structure up in here. And if you look at my other social media pages, you can see images of this stuff. That stuff all goes full on iridescent, pearlized crystal. It's crazy, but it's got to have the right light. And sometimes you just see the blue that shows up in the right corner there a little bit. But all that crystal structure in there, besides the ripples, and it runs like double structure to the ripples. All that crystallization turns iridescent in the right light. This one's really super frosty. Let's see, can we find? I'm trying to focus on the crystal, but so again, it's got to be just the right light or it doesn't show. And I'm not seeing it in here at all. Evening, like right at dusk, I totally get all that showing up, but none of it's showing here at all. It's crazy. You know, on my functional fractions or Mason B Mint pages on Insta or I got it going on. Yeah, you don't see any of that. It's crazy. Full on iridescent rainbow all across these things in the right light, but you don't see none of it in this light. It's bizarro. So anyhow, that's and then I'm gonna be putting this. I don't think I'll melt this down. I'm seeing these chains alone for $4,000, and they don't have the trolley on it. Check out the trolley car. It's got a little driver in there, and he waves at you. So I'm probably gonna put up the Army Man this week, today. Actually, I'm gonna be putting all this other bullion is gonna be going on the eBay today. So, oh, here, let's do an update on what we got here. My bonsai. It's starting to really get some great shape to it. And I started working on it about a month ago. It had been neglected for years, and pretty soon I'll be repotting it and everything. We got some great root structure coming through here, right? And I've been going through. So we tie them down, and this is not necessarily traditional style, right? I'm using string to pull it into place instead of wire, but they use string as well traditionally, or ropes. But one of the things I'm doing is you start nicking the bark and stuff, exposing some of the chlorophyll and the cambium, and then that also stimulates growth further back up in generally. But I'm getting great, just because I've changed the position and stressed it a little bit, I'm getting a lot of sprouting back up into the branches that it hasn't been doing for years. Here's a bunch here. Yeah, so I broke the branch here completely, and that stimulates growth back behind that. All of these tops are starting to produce a little bit, right? The other thing I'm noticing is some of the ends are starting to curl up. The stuff that was all tilted down before. And so it's doing the thing. Here's some albino lemon tree leaves. All right. I don't know what else is there. So on the normal paradigm shift, read Siddhartha, and now that there's no longer Future Cannabis Project, I wasn't planning on. Oops, I unplugged. Wasn't really planning on doing Siddhartha here to finish it, but I'd like to finish the book Siddhartha. So I suppose I read some of the. My phone unplugged. Sorry, I'm just trying to. There we go. Plug her back in so we don't go dead. Where did Siddhartha go? Do I have? I feel like I need. Here's Siddhartha. I feel like I got 2 more. All right, so we went back to the ferry. We read most of the book. The rest of the reading is gone, I guess. What a trip. I don't think I'm going to read that right now. Then I think I should just do a full reading of that as a straight through end to end. Where the one thing I wanted to start in on was the richest man in Babylon. I swore it was sitting right here, and I don't see it. Oh well. How about let's check out the Constitution. Yeah, right. No, I don't know. Is the rest of is Channel 1 gone too? There's definitely O2's gone, and definitely a bummer there. But I mean, I think about it. It's like I put probably more time and energy and teaching into the Landrace Traders Club on Facebook than I did to Future Cannabis Project. But I don't know, maybe and that got disappeared because someone's greed, right? Thanks, Alchemist. That's definitely. So one of my favorite quotes from Ben Franklin is, anyone who would forego liberty for a sense of security deserves neither. Amendment 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against reasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. It says the persons, the people, does not say the citizens. This applies to all human beings on the soil of the United States, under the jurisdiction of the United States, and not diplomats. Not some of the crazy shit. Was the motherfuckers tried to go into the fucking embassy. Was it Honduran embassy the other day? Holy motherfucking, what kind of fucking Yahomis do they have? It is just beyond reasonable suspicion. Some the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue
but upon probable cause, right? Not reasonable suspicion, a probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be searched. I'm looking for is it the I'm looking for I don't think this is the right document for what I'm looking for. Yeah, well, we can read this though. We the people, it does not say we the citizens, it says we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, and provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty. A lot of people don't know. A lot of the caps I wear, this one's not it, but I do wear a liberty cap, which is representative of the when the goddess Libertad would bless freedom upon a slave in old Rome, they would don the purple cap. And so the Liberty Cap mushroom is not named after opening your head, but it was named after its shape, looking like the Liberty Cap that was historically given to a free man released from indentured or slavery. Okay. Where'd that just go? Pull my finger out. That's 31. That's 32. Let's start from them again. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, and ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty. That's where I was. To ourselves and our posterity, our children, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. Yeah, I don't think that's in here. I was looking for the preamble to the Declaration. It's a pretty powerful set of statements in today's times as well. Section 1, all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives. Section 2, the House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of the several states, and the elections in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for elections of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained the age of 25 years and been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant that the state in which he shall be chosen. Notice, Article 1 does declare that there are citizens and persons, and that the preamble addresses that all of this, we have these word separations. There is, and throughout the amendments, we have the people, right? It doesn't say the citizens, right? The citizens are a requirement for running for Congress, becoming a president, for instance, right? But that's not, all the rest of the rights therein of the people are applied equally across the board. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed 3/5 for all other persons. Note, changed by Section 2 of the 14th Amendment. The actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of the Congress for the United States, and within every subsequent term of 10 years, in such manner as they shall by law direct. That's the census. The number of representatives shall not exceed one for every 30,000, but each state shall have at least one representative until such enumeration shall be made. The state of New Hampshire shall be entitled to choose, spelled CHUSE, 3, Massachusetts 8, Rhode Island and Providence Plantations 1, Connecticut 5, New York 6, New Jersey 4, Pennsylvania 8, Delaware 1, Maryland 6, Virginia 10, North Carolina 5, South Carolina 5, and Georgia 3. When vacancies happen and the representation from any state, the executive authority thereof shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies. That's the governor. The House of Representatives shall choose their speaker, and other officers shall have the sole power of impeachment. Section 3. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen by the legislature thereof, changed by Section 1 of the 17th Amendment, for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. 6 years should be the fucking term limits for senators. Immediately they shall be assembled in the consequence of the first election, and they shall be divided equally as may be into 3 classes. The seats of the senators of the first class shall be vacated at the expiration of the second year, and the second class at the expiration of the 4th year, and the third class at the expiration of the 6th year, so that 1/3 may be chosen every second year. See, that shit makes sense. Go back to having a rotating representation of statesmen instead of professional lifelong tenures as authorities. More power than, like Mitch McConnell wielded way more power than any president in the last this first quarter of the century until Trump, where he created the situation for that guy to usurp all the power. It's fucking insane. And now McConnell's powerless if he's still alive. But the what was prior to him was Hatch here in Utah, right? Same shit. Insane amounts of fucking power over decades and decades and decades, which should be 6 years. The third class experience, 30 is a rotation. Where'd that go? Executive there. Hatch, yeah. I mean, yeah. Where was I in there? So that 1/3 may be chosen every second year. And if vacancies happen by resignation or otherwise during the recess of the legislature of any state, the executive thereof may make temporary appointments until the next meeting of the legislature, which shall then fill such vacancies. Note this changed by Clause 2 of the 17th Amendment. 3, no person shall be a senator who shall not have attained the age of 30 years old and been 9 years a citizen of the United States, who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state for which he shall be chosen. I mean, you got to live where you're going to represent, and you got to be at least 30 years old and 9 years a citizen. The Vice President of the United States shall be President of the Senate, but shall have no vote unless there be equally divided. The Senate shall choose their other officers and also a president pro tempore in the absence of the vice president, or when he shall execute the office of President of the United States. The Senate shall have sole power to try all impeachments, while so, and that's to try all. That means as a court of law, they end up. Yeah, let's read that through. Senate shall have all the power to try all impeachments. Well, the Congress sets up the impeachment, and the Senate tries it. While sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation when the President of the United States is tried. The Chief Justice shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. Right, and so the Senate trial conviction is a little bit different than the impeachment process of the Congress, right? It becomes an actual trial, and unfortunately, we've gotten to the point where cult overrides actual law. So perhaps maybe this third time around will be the charm, and law shall be enacted. Where was that? All right. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not be extended further than removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, and judgment and punishment according to law. Right? So also being found not guilty by the Senate trial does not make you immune, because it's not a legal trial, so you don't have double jeopardy when those charges are brought upon you after impeachment, whether impeachment was successful or not due to political issues. The times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislator thereof. But the Congress may at any time, by law, make or alter such regulations, except as to the place of choosing senators. The Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and such meeting shall be on the first Monday in December. Note changed by Section 2 of the 20th Amendment, unless they shall by law appoint a different day, which had happened. Each house shall be the judge of the elections, returns and qualifications of its own members, and a majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business. But a smaller number may adjourn from day to day, and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members, in such manner and under such penalties as each house may provide. Each house may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and, with the concurrence of 2/3, expel a member. Each house shall keep a journal of its proceedings, and from time to time publish the same, except such parts as may, in their judgment, require secrecy. And the yeas and nays of the members of either house on any question shall, at the desire of 1/5 of those present, be entered on the journal. Neither house during this session of Congress shall, without the consent of the other, adjourn for more than 3 days, nor to any other place than that which the two houses shall be sitting. The senators and representatives shall receive a compensation for the services to be ascertained by law and paid out by the Treasury of the United States. They shall, in all cases except treason, felony, and breach of the peace, be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses, and in going and returning from the same. And for any speech or debate in either house, they shall not be questioned in any other place. No senator or representative shall, during the time for which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office under the authority of the United States which shall have been created, or the emoluments whereof shall have been increased during such time. And no person holding any office under the United States shall be a member of either house during his continuance in office. All bills for raising revenue shall be originated in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. Every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it become a law, be presented to the President of the United States. If he approve, he shall sign it, but if not, he shall return it with his objections to that House in which it shall have originated. One shall enter the objections at large on their journal and proceed to reconsider it. If after such reconsideration 2/3 of the House shall agree to pass the bill, it shall be sent together with the objections to the other House, by which it shall likewise be reconsidered. And if approved by 2/3 of that House, it shall become a law. But in all such cases, the votes of both Houses shall be determined by yeas and nays, and the names of the persons voting for and against the bill shall be entered on the journal of each House respectively. If any bill shall not be returned by the President within 10 days, Sundays excepted, after it shall have been presented to him, the same shall be a law, in like manner as if he had signed it, unless the Congress by their adjournment prevent its return, in which case it shall not be a law. Every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and the House of Representatives may be necessary, except on a question of adjournment, shall be presented to the President of the United States, and before the same shall take effect, shall be approved by him, or being disapproved by him, shall be repassed by 2/3 of the Senate and House of Representatives according to the rules and limitations prescribed in the case of a bill. So again, if Congress puts the bill forth, passes it to the Senate approves, maybe makes changes, puts it back to Congress, changes whether or not occur, goes back to the Senate says okay at some point, goes to the President has 10 days to sign it or not sign it, or return it. If he signs it or not signs it after 10 days, it's law. If he returns it, the Senate can, the Congress and Senate can pass it unchanged with 2/3 vote, and it becomes law. Or they can completely change it, pass it, and with simple majorities, and signed by President becomes law. Okay. Every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate of the House of Representatives may be, see, I already did all that shit. Section 8. The Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and exercises, to pay the debts and provide the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. Let's read this again. Powers granted to Congress, Section 8, 1. The Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duty, imposts, and excises. That's tariffs, right? So Trump putting blanket tariffs across on everything is like blanket unconstitutional, right? Fucking there, right? All that shit's illegal. Dictatorship, when one person does that, and the entire purpose of giving that to Congress is to understand and debate the ups and downs of doing such things, and the benefits whereof and the negatives whereof, instead of just the whims of a fucking 5-year-old child narcissist who wants to steal another country and decides to put 100% tariffs on a whole group of countries as leverage, right? That is as corrupt as it gets, and that's not what freedom or representative government is about, right? The Congress is there for the purpose of the purse, right? The president just approves or disapproves. He can suggest shit for Congress to approve or disapprove, right? If the people really like the concept and they understand. One of the other things, though, is the First Amendment requirements of having truth, and the fourth branch of government is knowledge. And if we don't have actual real information, instead of gaslight, like contradictory one word to the next, saying nonsense, and it's you can't have these actual democracy if you don't have reality and fact, and that's one of the scariest fucking things about what's going on right now is like my dad seriously believes there's paid protesters at all of these ICE protests. Like, no, like please, like find the fucking job announcements. I need income. Sounds like easy work. It's really mind-boggling. So okay, back to section 8. The emoluments clause alone. Holy fuck. Right? The red pyramid so fucking real, my friend. He's saying if you're just listening, the emoluments clause, Article 2, Section 1, Clause 7 violations are enough this term for an impeachment for the people that care about rules. Just saying. And this is so fucking true. So many people still believe that there was corruption by the Biden. Somehow there was some $20 million they claim that was corruptly obtained by the Biden family by Joe being president and vice president over this time period that he was in office. And there's $20 million worth of gold bars sitting on the fucking Trump Resolute desk right now that were all bribes. There's this flop of a fucking Melania movie. It's $40 million bribe, $26 million. The fucking the robbery of the Treasury, suing IRS for $10 billion for releasing his taxes, old defunct taxes, no less, not even the modern ones, right? No, that's all as corruption gets, right? The entire Bitcoin thing, the merging of True Social with nuclear fucking power company. What the fuck was that? And then how many businesses have been forcibly given shares of by the company to the federal government? And is that not communism? Is that communism or socialism? Definitely the tariffs with Trump. That's socialism as it gets, right? All this shit's insane. But try and explain any of this to someone like my dad. And he basically told me to fuck off after 6 texts over a 2-week period with factual information and just propaganda from Big Brother spewed and 20 million aliens, murders, and it's like and paid protesters. Okay. It's happy day. How you doing? G50. So G5020. I love when I finally ever fucking spell out the words of people's fucking names. Oh, coffee grounds in the bottom of the cup. Nasty. All right, Article 8. All right, so Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposed, and excises to pay the debts and provide the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposed, excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. To borrow money on credit of the United States, to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among several states with the Indian tribes. So that right there, again, that's Congress's power, not the president's power. To establish uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. To coin money, to regulate the value thereof of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures. Congress's power is to provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States, and to establish post offices and post roads. Okay, that's one right there that's killing me right now. I had my knockoff Cartier was removed from Facebook this week, last week when I listed it for sale. And I never said it was a Cartier. It just says marked as Cartier, examine closely. It says we don't allow counterfeits. You can't repost this. It's in our AI. But they constantly allow fake, both modern US coin, the silver US $1 walking liberty coin, right? And antique fake coins constantly being sold on Hello Scientific. That's kind of a beef of mine and a lot of other people, that you got to really be careful buying stuff off the eBay. Check it real quick. Know how to check it as soon as it comes in your door, even if they don't offer returns or whatever. But there's tons of these fakes being sold, and sometimes they'll even say it in the bottom of the description somewhere. There's another crazy one I saw the other day. Some guy was going, did I get scammed? And he bought a bunch of silver rounds and didn't ping them or nothing, but got home and started looking through them. And his wife's like, hey, this one says copy on it. And then he went ahead and was freaking out thinking he got fake silver, and took it to a local shop, and they scanned it for him. And the one that read copy and some of the other questionable ones were all actually solid silver. So it was a copy of a U.S. coin, trying not to get a counterfeit claim against him. Put the copy on it, right? Okay, good things to know. To establish post offices and post roads. Promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right their respective writings and discoveries. Yeah, that's something this government currently is not doing. To constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court, to define and publish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations, to declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures on land and water. So all the shit that's been going on with blowing up suspected drug boats and all that shit, all those rules of engagement were supposed to be written by Congress. Letter of marque and reprisal. I believe that is it would be something like the closest thing we could think of today would be bounty hunters. But there would have been like I'm trying to think of the term. It wasn't legal pirate. It was legal piracy in a way. It was I can't think of the fucking word. But Henry, is it William Henry? There was like the governments would write a letter of marque giving a merchant marine or whatever, a sailor, the right to attack boats of another country. Privateering. Thank you. Appreciate you, sir. Yeah, so I think that's what that is. Which brings up today, here we now have mercenaries. We have foreign mercenaries acting as ICE agents, not only because we can't get enough people in the United States who qualify who are willing to do that kind of nonsense, but they've brought in IDF forces, are engaged in the ground war, and there's also just foreign mercenaries, people from are coming and joining up and just to make the money, and you got to be a real ass to moralless tool of a fascist to do that kind of shit. I don't think that any of that is constitutional. All right. To define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations, declare war, letters grant, mark, and reprisal, and make the rules concerning captures on land. So it's piracy when someone does it to you, and it's privateering when you do it to them. Right. To raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money that use shall be for longer than 2 years. Right. So that's an interesting thing. So you can only appropriate money for 2 years unless you get yourself a roundabout, and there's no little thing saying they changed that. To provide and maintain a navy, to make the rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces, to provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, to suppress insurrection and repel invasions. States militias. To exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such districts not excluding 10 miles square as may, by secession of particular states and acceptance of Congress, become a seat in the government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature in the state in which the same shall be for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings, and to make all the laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and the other powers vested in this Constitution in the government in the United States or in any other department or officer thereof. So, like, Congress has all power over everything that goes on in the military, right? The military can't just write their own laws and just go willy-nilly. It isn't approved by Congress. Let's see. So, powers forbidden to Congress. This is what they're not allowed to do before we even get to a Bill of Rights, which restricts them further. The migration or importation of such persons as any of the state now existing shall think proper to admit shall not be prohibited by the Congress prior to the year 1808, but a tax or duty may be imposed on such importation in exceeding $10, not exceeding $10 for each person. So that's about that. That's the. It's just saying you couldn't stop people from coming into the country except you could charge them $10. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion of the public safety may require it. It's a pretty extreme set of circumstances. Basically, you need to be in a state of war, an actual state of war, not just saying, oh my God, all the brown people are coming, it's an invasion. I'm going to read that one again. The privilege of writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. Right? Exercising First Amendment rights is not a rebellion. Committing acts of violence against Congress. People who were actually convicted of by juries of their peers of insurrection on January 6th. Right? There's a big difference. A lot of people don't realize there's more than 10,000 arrests and convictions associated with the Black Lives Matter events and the violence that occurred at those, which primarily occurred by agitators from the right. The Begaboo Boys were the largest amount of folks. Right, T-Man? Filming law enforcement is not terrorism. Shooting someone in the back, unless they're actively shooting at somebody facing away from you, has never been deemed okay. It is an act of cowardice. Even in the Old West, if a townie shot a bad outlaw in the back when he wasn't committing a crime, nobody else's life was in danger, that townie would have been shunned as a yellow-backed coward. Okay. Because shooting a man in the back is not self-defense, especially when you just watch his gun taken away from him. It's an execution. It's murder. Fed hit squad whacked him. You know, having been a federal officer myself and having run inmate fire crews and literally had the officers come and arrest inmates of mine out in the field and stuff, and I can tell you very simply that it only takes one or two officers in a suit with handcuffs and their sidearm and their badge to effect a warranted arrest 99% of the fucking time, right? And there's absolutely literally no reasonable excuse whatsoever for having 15 or 20 militarized masked officers going into a neighborhood to arrest one person, right? Even if their charge was assault, that could literally just be someone spitting on you, right? But like I had murderers, rapists. The rapists were only cooks. I didn't have them on my fire crew. But I had violent offenders. I had all sorts of crazy criminals that work out on my crew, right? They would, if they needed to rearrest somebody or whatever it was at any point, it was generally two officers would go effect the arrest, right? What's up? Yeah, that shit. That's literally terrorism. Sending 15 masked armed soldiers into a neighborhood to, or mercenaries. They're not properly trained federal officers. Like, what the fuck? Don't any of them have fucking stun guns? There's zero less than lethal available to these idiots. I don't know. Like if you can't step out of the way of a car. So again, that guy that ran over that kid yesterday, should we have shot that guy running him over? Right, man. Are you our friend in Syria? Appreciate you. Yeah, no, some of them are IDF. They're not. I don't think the IDF are wearing ICE. I think the IDF guys are all wearing all black, not the camouflage and blue jeans. But yeah, it's what I saw when they dumped the. Appreciate you coming back, Nate. The name dump. It was like 1 in 10 are IDF. It's pretty fucking crazy. Welcome back, my friend, as well. Yeah, apparently the other channel I sent you to got deleted completely. We had it going for 4 years, and it just got too many. Some of the other people who would stream on there would do things that got strikes against us, and it's gone now. So I guess I'll just do this here every Sunday, do my thing, and you know, if 9 people hang out with me, that's awesome, right? Appreciate you for hanging out. And one person hears what I have to say, and it makes the world a very different place when it's heard. So, anyhow, we were reading our United States Constitution. In Canada, the UN troops wore blank uniforms or old Canadian uniforms at the end of the convoy. You know, people don't understand. Like I've had a gun stuck in my face 7 times in my life where it was like deadly force intended use. I never had to kill anybody in self-defense. Just the shit these idiots are fucking doing. Anyhow, good citizen Good and Preddy are going to go down in history as American heroes. So I know that. Far longer will he be remembered than the murderer Rittenhouse, who got away for crying self-defense, literally crying like a little baby on the stand. The cause the cosplay triot wannabe medic who showed up to protect property with an assault rifle, with an AR, an Armalite style. It's just that circular argument is so fucking stupid because the original Armalite was what became the fucking U.S. military's assault rifle, and the ones available for civilian use is the same fucking thing in a fucking semi-automatic instead of a fully automatic with the 4-burst option. It, like, I don't like how the fuck. You know what people don't go around doing mass murders with in America? Except for one woman in 1978. The fucking Woodstock 22. And they're just as deadly. They're all over the fucking place. Because they're not as gung-ho fucking Rambo as a plastic black assault rifle style facade on the exact same. You don't see people using a Winchester 207 hunting rifle. You see them using the same round in the AR plastic black facade, right? Yeah, what's new about the situation? They're trying to change. They're trying to change some of like they fired the guy, the little Nazi guy that was in charge of it all. That was saying, "Don't call me a Nazi," while he was dressed like literally with a Nazi haircut and a Nazi outfit on, and fucking doing Nazi shit. It's fucking mind-boggling. I think the final straw was when he said that his officers that shot Alex Preddy in the back were the victims of the situation and not Alex Preddy, who was dead. Right? Do I like Trump? No. Someone asked me if I like Trump, and so let me tell you about. I went to the richest, most powerful, elite private school in Los Angeles in the late 1980s. I graduated from that high school in 1989, and my first understandings of the human being we have to refer to on a regular basis because he has so much insane amount of power is the first things I remember was the lawsuit against him and his dad for racist rental properties. And then I remember him taking out a racist ad to have the state murder 5 innocent brown boys, the New York City 5, or the Central Park 5, right? Which he's never retracted his statement for. And then, so at my elite private high school, there was multi-generational families of wealth there, one of which was partners, 2 family partners had been together for generations, and they owned a large construction firm that did primarily water, plumbing, and electrical. And they had contracted with the Trump organization to do a building. I don't know if it was what building it was, but Trump had as his modus operandi stiffed this family's firm for the bill, like we all know he does. And so having ripped for millions and millions of dollars in the 80s, which when gold was only worth $300 an ounce, is now $5,000 plus. The crazy shit happened was we thought it was a bribe back then, but what really happened was so Trump and Epstein have been hanging out actually since the late 80s, and they threw a rager party. We used to rent big old buildings downtown and throw these kegger parties, private entrance, and you pay $40 to come in and all you could drink, right? And so we thought it was one of those kinds of parties, and they came back to report after having been, it was the sons of the 2 families, and we played football together, and they come back in the locker room. They're telling us we left that party real quick. So it was a Trump Epstein, and being a rich elite people, we all know who Epstein was, right? There's this private school, and everybody would like pray, this guy is fucking rich, man. This guy's got the money, man. He's got the connections, and and Trump was a nothing at the time, sort of, but so we thought it was a bribe. We really thought that this party was a bribe because what it was basically was a bunch of rooms full of teenage girls that were wasted on drugs and alcohol, and people were taking turns raping them. Boy, someone has TDS, Storm. You have some serious mental issues, bro. You need some help. Um, So yeah, it's basically it was a compromat, which was Epstein's standard operation, right? And we now know so much more has come out with so many more accusations against the psychopath Trump, and you have so basically my understanding of Trump is that he sold his soul a long fucking time ago, and the only contract he ever fucking adhered to has the line items of the seven deadly sins. And people like this dude in chat here is one of the minions of Satan that adhere to diabolism, or the evil takes care of its own. And this is something we can see in any group of religions. You have shysters and charlatans that claim to be of faith, of some particular faith. And of course, all religions say my faith is the only faith that's real. And my straight and narrow is the only way to salvation, and they subjugate people with fear that way, but also the whole concept of faith and taking just belief of what somebody tells you repeatedly over and over again is pretty simple for religious zealots to not examine the face value of anything anyone says. Here was a great example. This person just came here and asked me a question and told me to get a job, called me an old man, wrote Trump 30 fucking times, is blessing authoritarianism. That's pretty psychotic, if you ask me, and probably not even someone from the United States either. So, get out, dummy. Get out of where? My own house? The country my ancestors built? My ancestors fought in the revolution. And here we are reading the Constitution. It's crazy. My friend in Syria says, I know is fucked up because I have seen people saying to women, go make a sandwich, and they want a Christian nationalist country, but like, holy fuck. Yeah, Christian nationalism is not Christianity, right? Nazis were Christian nationalists, right? They allowed you to have freedom of religion as long as you had some form of praising Jesus, right? But when it gets down to it, Christians can't even agree, and they start infighting over what is the one true way. And then literally, like that guy. Oh no, he's gone. He'll probably never show up again. He had his adrenaline rush and got his dopamine from telling me off and calling me old. Like, what? But he proved the point that these people are fucking psychotic. The dude literally just lost his fucking mind over the fact that I was telling my experience with my introduction to Trump before this guy was born, right? And how my opinion of the person was formed, not by watching him on television on really horrible reality TV shows where you're like, oh, this guy seems like fun, right? It's really fucking mind-boggling how people can just like blindly worship a demigod like that. But that's literally Trump derangement syndrome was just put on full display for us. If you can see the chat. Back into the Constitution. Where were we? But the spam of it. It was like you hear Trump like 20 times. Just T-Man saying, I'm okay with talking shit, but drop a fact. Drop a fact other than your emotions. That's truly, and that's the thing is there's no longer any ability to rationally interact they've been brainwashed to trigger on certain words or actions, or and so they go into full on fight or flight reaction, and so the ability to reason is gone. It's covered with adrenaline and dopamine, because they have fear of the cognitive dissonance fear portion override, because we don't actually have, but like my dad even has been made to believe that somehow I'm the enemy, right? And that we're literally at war with ourselves, and constantly on these right wing podcasts. Like I'm trying to drop some truth into conversation and some actual numbers and facts and understanding and reason, and getting people to think about, like, compare Kyle Rittenhouse to Alex Preddy, right? And we have a cause patriot who showed up and who wanted to be a medic, brought a long gun, crossed state lines from his residence. We were like, his dad lived in the other state. It's like, but I said he crossed state lines from his residence, didn't I? He didn't live with his dad, did he? Right? And they had to keep that gun in another state, because where his residence was, it was illegal for him to own that gun, right? He got that gun with money for having worked literally 3 weeks as a lifeguard his entire fucking life, and he got a check from Trump for fucking for COVID, and that's what bought that gun. It's just fucking mind-boggling. Mr. Preddy was actually an ICU nurse taking care of dying veterans who had a concealed carry permit, never touched his weapon, never shot anybody, never threatened anybody, had his hands up, was beaten to the ground, and his gun taken away from him. Right? Now Kyle Rittenhouse was shooting people who were trying to stop an active shooter, but because he cried on stand and said, they tried to take me, which, why the fuck did you show up with the fucking gun to protect property in the first place, right? But he's the hero, and they say that he used the classic self-defense, when no, you cannot create a situation yourself and then claim self-defense. Right? And that's the same fucking back to the I think I did over that already, but the entire it's like stepping in front of the car. The Supreme Court already said in the 90s that immigration cannot step in front of the car and then shoot someone for self-defense, right? That's like a known tactic that has been used by that department and declared by our Supreme Court that that's unconstitutional and murder, basically. And that's literally, it's mind-boggling. Like, nobody's been able to articulate what part of the car or his body touched each other, because they didn't either, right? You can check it from any angle. There was no part of his body ever touched that vehicle. I'm being asked by T-Man to read the part about the militia again. I'll go back and read that section and find. So it's in the powers granted, Section 8. Section 8, Article 8 is to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. Where the fuck was that? That's got to be, it's back over here in Section 7, I think. No. Where'd that go? It was under the money part, wasn't it? Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, excises, and pay the debts and provide for the common defense, general welfare of the United States. All duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. So all that shit that Trump's doing about changing the payments to states and all that shit's totally unconstitutional. Yeah, this is our supreme law of the land. All that nonsense underneath it has to fucking fit into this. Regulate commerce of foreign nations and among, but to borrow money on the credit of the United States to regulate commerce. This is the powers granted to Congress, foreign nations among the several states and within the Indian tribes to establish the uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States, to coin money, regulate the value thereof, and foreign coin, fix the standard of weights and measurements, provide the punishments, counterfeiting, securities, current coin in the United States, to establish post office, post roads, to promote the progress in science. We just read that one. To constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court to define and punish piracies and felonies committed at high seas, offenses against the laws of the nation. To declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures of land and water, to raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money that shall be for a term longer than 2 years. Okay, that's funding for military every 2 years. To provide and maintain a navy, to make rules for government and regulation of the land and naval forces. To here it is, 15, right where I just been. To provide the calling forth of militia, to execute the laws of the Union, to suppress insurrections and repel invasion. So it takes Congress to call up the National Guards, not the president. Really shouldn't have that power. It's just like the president doesn't really have the power to declare war, de facto or not. To provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, for the governing of such parts of them as may be employed by in the service of the United States, reserving to the states respectively the appointments of officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. So it says Congress oversees, but we still have militia is states' rights. To exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over the district not exceeding 10 miles square as over such district. Okay, so that's the establishment of future states and territories, to make all the laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or any department or officer thereof. And then we were getting into the powers forbidden to Congress, is where we were reading when I was really interested by our Trump maniac asking if I approve of Trump or not. And it's like, he couldn't stick around for the Constitution to understand why I do not approve. And that's the entire ability to reason being shut down by the fight or flight. Like, cognitive dissonance. I must either kill or run, right? And you're not gonna be able to kill me very easily, considering I've got up and walked away from breaking my neck twice. All right, the migration. We already talked about that. That's where kind of where I left off. $10 for the $10 fee for coming into the country back in the day. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended, except unless when Congress or of rebellion or invasion, in cases of rebellion or invasion of public safety may require it. No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. That means like you can't pass a law after the fact and convict somebody on it. No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken. See the 16th Amendment. But again, Trump levying taxes or not paying out the taxes paid in by states appropriately is totally unconstitutional. Oh yeah, I don't have U.S. code. I'm just reading the Constitution here. No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. So we can't tax each other state to state. No preference shall be given by any regulation of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another, nor shall vessels bound to or from one state be obliged to enter, clear, or pay duties in another. So again, no, the Congress and states can't impose taxes on other states. No money shall be drawn from the treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law and a regular statement and account of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time. So things like the yeah, registering for the draft, man, that's what you're hitting on. Which I did. You had to register for the draft to get student loans or a bank account or all sorts of shit where they like mandate you do that. Register to vote. So the billions of dollars from oil we stole from Venezuela that got sold in Qatar, and the money's now in an offshore account under Trump, is totally unconstitutional under these verses right here, right? He has no power of the purse. He has no power to declare war. He has Congress didn't write him a letter of marque to appropriate that, right? That was done by military. So all this shit's unconstitutional. It's fucking crazy, but which means we really don't. This thing's been. Where are we at time? We got 13 minutes. Nope. Let's see. No duty exported from a state shall do another. Okay. No money shall be drawn. We read that one. No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without consent of the Congress, accept any present, emolument, office, or title, or any kind whatsoever from any king, prince, or foreign state. So that one right there, that basically disqualifies Trump across the board, right? So he's just taking fucking money. He's taking piles of gold. He took a crown for where the fuck was it? I don't know, Miramar. Who the fuck gave him the crown? Right? They're giving him all sorts of fucking the jet, right? Congress didn't approve that beforehand, and again, you can't fucking no bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed, right? Okay, so all this shit's unconstitutional across the fucking board. Yeah, you're right. No. Powers forbidden to the states. No state shall enter into intertreaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. Right there, it just says that gold and silver are the only legal fucking currency. And the big picture of this entire paradigm shifted show. We spent the first 25, 30 minutes just talking about silver and gold and the value of it today. If you missed that part, go back and see. Make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. Contracts is like the biggest, most powerful fucking thing in the law. It's crazy. Because maritime law oversees fucking constant. The maritime law basically deals with contracts and libels. Like it has more, like it covers like our insurance and stuff like that. It covers a lot of what goes on in our civil courts as well. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay or impose any duties or imports or except for where on imports or exports, except where may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws, and the net produce of all duties and imposts laid by any state on imports or exports shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States. All right, so if one state wanted to lay a tax on, so say Oklahoma wanted to tax Colorado pot from being sold in Colorado, the only way they could to regulate the import of pot from Colorado into Oklahoma and maintain a safe environment for the productivity of pot in Oklahoma, that tax could be appropriated if proved that the vitality of the state of Oklahoma's economy was at stake, and then the tax would go to the federal treasury. Where the fuck was that? Shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States, and all such laws shall be subject to the revision and control of the Congress. No state shall, without consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state or with a foreign power, or engage in war unless actively invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. So all the MAGA talk of civil war is unconstitutional as well. Let's see, executive branch, Article 2, Section 1. This is good shit here. We got just enough time. We'll just read right through this until, actually, yeah, it's not very long. I'll finish it out before I quit. Usually go 2 hours. It'll be a little long on that, but so Article 2, the Executive Branch, Section 1. The executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years. So it says his office. So it is an office subject to Congress. During the term of 4 years, and together with the Vice President chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. Each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress, but no senator or representative or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by, this is the electoral college we're discussing right here, which was, the electors shall meet in the respective states and vote by ballot for 2 persons, of whom one at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves, and they shall make a list of all the persons voted for, and the number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify and transmit sealed to the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate, who would be the previous Vice President, as declared in the previous article. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall be then counted. The person having the greatest number of votes shall be the president. If such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if there be more than one who have such a majority and have an equal number of votes, then the House of Representatives shall immediately choose by ballot one of them for president, and no person have a majority, then from the 5 highest on the list, the said House shall in like manner choose the president. But in choosing the president, the votes shall be taken by states. The representation from each state have one vote. A quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members of from 2/3 of the state, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice. In every case, after the choice of the president, the person having the greatest number of votes of the electors shall be the vice president. But if there should remain two or more who have equal votes, the Senate shall choose from them by ballot the vice president, now superseded by the 12th Amendment. All right, so that very clearly describes the whole process why they were chanting "Hang Mike Pence," right? Because nowhere in there does it give him any discretion other than to open the envelopes, read the count, and assess the count and declare the winner. The only variation from that being if there are ties, and then there is a direct vote in the Senate, right? So, the Congress may determine the time of choosing the electors and the day on which they shall give their votes, which day shall be the same throughout the United States. And that would have been January 20th, I think is what they said it is. And so no person, no, January 6th, I'm sorry. There's the early December delivery. January 6th is the reading. There's a certification before, somewhere in there. Anyhow, no person except a natural born citizen or citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution shall be eligible to the office of the president. Neither shall any person be eligible to that office who shall not have attained the age of 35 years and been 14 years a resident within the United States. Back at the time this is written, that was an old man. Average lifespan was 47 years old. So you were 80% of the way through at that point, right? But here, very few people at all were living to 80 years back then, and no one expected somebody of that age to hold a office of representation and power. They all were quite aware that you need to be old enough to have enough experience to understand life, but you also they didn't put a cap on it because people died. They got addled in the brain. I think we need an age cap at this point. In the case of the removal of the president from office or of his death, resignation, or inability to discharge the powers and the duties of the said office, the same shall devolve on the vice president, and the Congress may by law provide for the case of removal, death, resignation, or inability both of the president and the vice president, declaring what officer shall then act as president, and such officer shall act accordingly until the disability be removed or the president shall be elected. Changed by the 25th Amendment. 7. The president shall at stated times receive for his services a compensation which shall neither be increased nor diminished during the period for which he shall have been elected, and he shall not receive within that period any other emolument from the United States or any of them. The president shall at times receive for his services a compensation which shall neither be increased nor diminished. So not accepting your presidential pay is unconstitutional, as well as accepting further emoluments from states or any of them. Meaning states, I think the United States or any of the individual states. I would presume that would those are representations of the people there, and so now that we have corporations or people, all that shit, you can't take emoluments. Before he enter on the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath or affirmation. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of the President of the United States and will do to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. And yeah, that was a lie, and he didn't even put his hand on his own Bible. 20 years and out at the most. Yeah. I mean, it said 6 years in the book originally, right? For Senate. Um, like truly a statesman versus a politician, right? The many bloodsuckers versus the man of the state. And literally, was it Crockett would have been what we would consider a statesman. He went with the intention of doing the duty to represent his people and left when his job was done, as opposed to any of the current creatures in Congress that show up and 25, 30, 50 years later, whatever, and like half of the other party's entire mainstream's like, they're corrupt. And all you just got to do is write one fucking book, though, and you're making $20 million at that point. It's kind of crazy. Are you on shrooms? No. Are you? Section 2, the president shall be commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and the militia of the several states when called into the actual service of the United States. He may require, but, so it said earlier, though, that Congress controls the militia and brings them up. He's in charge once it's brought up in service of the federal government, right? It also says that Congress controls the rules and bringing up the militias by the states. He does not control the militia when it is brought up to protect the state, right? That's why the National Guard shrooms are awesome. I'm not on them now. The National Guard in Minnesota handing out coffee and donuts and providing warming stations for citizens in deadly freezing temperatures is not an act of the federal government. It is an act of the state's government protecting its citizens with its militia. And there currently is an invasion of a military force in Minnesota of over 3,000 masked, militarized privateers. I wouldn't call them privateers. They kind of are. They're getting paid. So here in Utah, ICE just raided one of the ski resorts up Little Cottonwood Canyon, and the word at the bar was they took 40 what we call J1 employees. And you may have heard me, if you follow me, bitch about the foreign guest workers taking up the jobs at the ski resorts. They get paid a lot less than somebody who is a citizen resident and or otherwise a resident green card holder who comes in through their normal application channels. They come as guest workers sponsored, and they don't get overtime. They don't get a bunch of the other benefits. They get a straight hourly pay, and they'll pick up more hours, but it's like closer to minimum wage than the living wage. They took 40 documented guest workers out of Snowbird on work duty, went in and terrorized the ski fucking industry. And again, they get paid bonuses by hitting their quotas of arrests. And so easy target, not everybody took their fucking wallet to work. They found 40 out of 300 that didn't have their documentation on them and hauled them off. Definitely like an occupied militarized force and looks like people are heading off to go to check out Hash Church. It's fine. Where the fuck was I? Yeah, fuck it. We'll pick this up next week. Put a marker in. I'm done. 2 hours is enough. I got other things to do. Hope y'all enjoyed my ramble bamble. Bamble, ramble, bambo. Ramble, bambo. Boom. I'm not an atheist, but all religions are false. How's that? God is a computer programmer. Prove me wrong. The math says we live in a simulation, not actual reality. I'll finish out with this cool little thought process, mind tweak, mathematical proof. But statistically speaking, analyzing this question, we find that we're more likely a simulation than the real reality, right? And so we know that there are all sorts of simulated realities in our own reality, right? And we know that those simulations get better and better and better as time progresses, and they're getting exponentially better. And where we can see from, for instance, Pong, which was a simulated reality of a tennis game, to what we have now is live gaming, where you can put on your VR goggles and you're in this entire universe with a whole bunch of very lifelike experiences, everything short of smells at this point, basically. But a whole nother virtual reality, for instance, is this book, right? And we know that anyone can read the book, and you immerse yourself when you have language. You immerse yourself into the book, into the reality that's encased within this virtual reality or simulated reality that is this book, that isn't the actual reality, but our consciousness engages that simulated reality, perceives it as if it is real as we're reading it, right? You go into your mind's eye as you're reading through the words, and you're so sunken into the depths of that situation, you're like moving through visualizing and seeing, right, that experience in the book. And that's a form of a simulated reality. Movies experiences, we go into the theater and we're immersed into that reality. It's a simulated reality, but it's so real. We feel the emotions, we cry, we might even pee your pants if you're scared, right? This book here, Siddhartha, that's any book, any book at all. Here's another simulated reality, is the autocracy, right? This is the thought process reality that an author created and asked you to engage an entire simulated reality to process concepts related to our reality that we experience, right? But also, like, everybody who experiences you experiences a completely different you than you perceive you to be, because their experience of reality, you're just a section in it, right? Whereas you're moving through your idea of reality all the time. Okay, so there's all these different perceptions of what is real, right? We can look at the number 69 or 96, right? And depending on which way you're standing and looking at it, is this in there was written in a particular way, right? Those letters are there is a bottom to it. The person who wrote those letters stood there, but our ability to perceive that is based on our perspective of walking up to that point of perception. Okay, and so all of the stuff around us, we have different abilities to perceive, but it's increased and increased over time, right? And all of the ideas that we call God can be fit into the programmer of a very complex simulated reality as well. Okay, and if we think about the gaming scenario, where we have free will, we have non-free will players and stuff, and the people coming in and out of our lives, are they all real? Right? Like things just keep happening until you get past that fucking level, right? Like, why can't I get shit to break free? Why couldn't I sell the gold this last week? It's just the returning something on the level. I forgot the key to turn, whatever the fucking things are, right? But so one thing I've definitely showed was that we have multiple simulated realities that we know of and perceive of. Like right here, there's multiple simulated realities in my hand, fiction books, right? There's multiple fiction books right there. Here's a crazy one here. So the Aeneid again. What do we have here? Is the Austrian is a trilogy. This one has 3 different stories within it, right? How many are in the Aeneid, right? And we go into all these other simulated realities and the gods, and right. So you have real people who are talking about the gods, and that's a book written. And so we have multiple layers of simulation, right? So we know now in our own perception of reality that there are more than one simulated realities, right? And so mathematically speaking, what is the probability that any concept of reality becomes the actual reality when we have agreed that there are now, with the amount of games we have, the amount of books we have, the amount of video channels we have, all these multitudes of simulated realities, who is to say any given one is the actual reality, right? Okay, so the probability shows, and if we write out the math, is that it is more likely that we do not exist in the reality, the prime reality, but that there are enveloped levels of simulation that we exist in, right? It's kind of crazy thought process, but it's a simulation game, but it's real life according to this guy. No, it is real life, but it's also, if we examine the way that the perception of Hinduism puts it, it's all a simulation, and we're all just the programmer experiencing all the different facets of the program. Okay. And in order to do that, you got to break it out into multiple, like I like doing more things than is humanly possible, and it keeps me from getting anything done. Okay, but that's my human nature. Is that I want to be, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different refining projects going all at once, right? And that doesn't, it's hard to get one done when, and for me, that's my reality. And we all perceive it very differently. It's kind of crazy how I don't play video games. I never really did. I got into playing pinball. That's a whole different. Yeah, so according to like Hindu, in reincarnation, energy, you can't create it or destroy it. It just keeps on going, right? And takes a different form. You experience the whole different aspect of the simulation in a different form, whether you're a flower or a shark or a right. And then there's the whole concept of no time exists except for the here and now, except for all time exists at all time, and so all time is here and now, and we just perceive it as a linear progression, right? Because we don't have actual control over it because we're just players in a simulation. Can I play a song? I don't know how to play the flute, so I don't know that I can actually play what you might call a song. Little ditties. Don't play songs on. You can play that. That's all you. If that's what your mind thoughts are. That's what your mind thoughts are. That's about it. Peace out. See you on the flip side. Who's that? Paradigm shift every Sunday. Here we are. This is it. There's no more on the Future Cannabis Project 02. Just right here on Six Figure Ski Bum. Peace out. See you on the flip side. Thanks for joining us. Like and subscribe.